Ashaley.
Right. Good evening to everyone who is joining this session. Good evening to everyone joining this session either online or in person. This is the final. It's among the final programs for the second day of PEJA 2021, and I actually am rather excited that we are ending today's session like this with poetry. And I have with me three gentlemen at different levels of their careers and different styles of writing, and they will be giving us poetry from their different collections. My name is Amartefio, and I am very pleased to introduce to you, starting from my left, Elipklim Akorli, a very well-known performance poet. We have Amarkine Amartefio, who actually is also a painter. I've actually got to know him first because of his art, and then he does poetry as well. And then on the farthest, we have Ni Ashaley, and I've interacted with Ni on a number of occasions, and I have found that his poetry is extremely directly themed, and anytime I read his work, I find that it is like a voice trying to tell me to be at peace. Now we have these three gentlemen with us tonight, and we enjoy readings from them.
Thank you, Martin.
Yeah. So let's start with you on my immediate left. It's been, it's almost a year now since we last spoke, right? But it's been even longer since I heard you present a poem, you know. I'm wondering what you've been cooking up, you know.
I've been cooking a lot.
Yes.
Writing almost comes to me naturally, like with reading.
Yeah. Let's see. Is your microphone on?
Hello?
Okay. Yeah. It's
It almost comes naturally like breathing. I don't struggle to write. Some people say they have writer's block. They get to experience all of that, but me, I use writing to process it. So I break it down, so it's not really difficult for me to write. So like almost every day, something new comes, I put it together, and sometimes I share on social media, but I keep some of my works to myself. So a lot of things, and I don't know if I'm supposed to read from this second publication or share some of my new works.
No, it's entirely up to you. And
entirely up to me.
Yes, and we'll come to that, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now I would like to hear from Amarkine. And in case you have gone through the courtyard, the inner courtyard, you would have found a really interesting selection of paintings. And these paintings are the work of Amarkine, who is this evening going to give us poetry. So I would ask you, Amarkine, where is the departure for you from painting to poetry?
Actually, the paintings on the
microphone.
Yeah, it's your microphone on.
Awesome.
There's a switch. Okay, it's on.
It's on.
Yeah.
The paintings over there are those of my daughter, Nameli Amartefio.
Oh, that's
myself.
okay.
She's an architect by profession. Also, and for me, painting and poetry or writing are painting and poetry are basically the same thing. What I do in painting with color, I do in poetry with words, because they are both expressions of concepts that go through my mind, and as a result of my interaction with the environment. So for some issues, I set them to color. I express them better in color. And for other issues, I just, write them. And it's basically the same thing. So there's no point of departure, actually, because it's like translating one language to another language. It's the same medium, so basically that's it. Yeah.
And I come to you, Ni. I've been trying to get you to participate in several of our other programs, but it seems that you have relocated a little bit out of the center of the city. I introduced you as a poet whose poetry, anytime I read it or listen to it, suggests to me that it's a voice telling me to be at peace. I don't know whether this is something that you actively do with your poetry, or whether this is just the muse. This is how it comes to you.
I think for me it is both. Thank you very much, Martin, for having me. It is both, and that is because I believe that art, in whatever form it takes, must serve some sort of social significance at the end of the day. And for me, where my skill set and my giftings lie is in the arena of soul therapy. So I channel that calling into the words that I speak to the hearing of my audience so that it serves that purpose. So you confirming this right now is telling me that I'm doing something right, and is motivation for me to carry on. So thank you.
Well, great. So let's start listening to the poems. Elipklim, can we? So it's going to be one of the new, fresher ones.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I wrote something to honor our women or breast cancer, and it has to do with breast. So let's go. Are you guys ready? You sure?
Yes, we are.
All right, big breast. Come here and sit with me. Memories of you oils the hinges of my mind, that though rust and envy tried over and over again to steal the verve I felt as buzz on the tip of my tongue while sucking on you, your pop out of the bra has been enough verb for the promise of Canaan you carry on your chest. Medium-sized breast. You who even won as the wall of Jericho, hiding spies and stood still though the walls fell at the sound of the trumpet. What secrets of music do your nipples secrete? What secret of music do your nipples secrete? Do your nipples secrete? Are you the source of the river Nile? Let me take that stanza again. Medium-sized breast. You who even won as the wall of Jericho, hiding spies and stood still though the walls fell at the sound of the trumpet. What secrets of music do your nipples secrete? Are you the source of the river Nile? Small breast. You are a story untold. Battle eliciting skills at the tips of the tongue to birth the fires that warms the entire body with tingles of sensation, like ripples sending shock waves, a Hannibal riding on war elephants into the Alps. What's Rome got on you? What's Rome got on you?
Okay, so at least we see the sizes in your mind, right? The big, the medium sized and the small. I guess that covers everything. So, Amarkine, I would pass it on to you.
This is a poem I wrote in 2016, but this is the first time I'm reading it publicly. And I call it, For All Those Times I Died. For all those times I died, when I made you my guide, and to my own soul I lied, and told myself you were all that I needed before I lived, and lived by your very word against my inner voice. I lived on your life's surplus. You said it would make me thrive, and now I look back and see all the stack of years I never lived. Truths I were told were lies. Truths I thought were lies, urges I questioned with whys. And now to hell with you, and now I'm done with you. Your beliefs you put on me, and I saw the world your way, and good you said it was. It moved the heart of God. I believe all you said, but now I find that odd. How could I have been dead to have left my life for yours? And now I do return and look back on my life and see all the moments, replay all the comments. For all those times I cried, for all those times I died, and now back from you I take my power, my mind, my soul, and say to hell with you, and say I'm done with you. I'm safer with my lies than truths I cannot question, that people unknown to me have left behind for me. And now I leave them all, my wisdom to embrace, my follies to learn from. For all those times I died when I wondered why and said, only if I looked like you and had your style and grace, your hair, your skin and race, your manners, your soul and ways. But now I look back and see all the void in all I had enjoyed, and say to hell with you. And again I say to you, it's over and done with you. For all those times I died, and all the days I cried, and all the times I tried, when I waited days on end for you to be my friend and say your love to me. For all those times I died, and all those days I cried, I have you all to thank, for now I know so well how to keep away from you and make my soul my guide and live my life with pride in all I am for now. Thank you.
And I hear echoes of the Invictus in that poem that you've given. You basically the last line, I suppose, was the one that made a connection for me. I was hearing the lines, I am the captain of my fate, What is this poem suggesting? I mean, what is it saying if you went beyond the lines of the poem?
Well, actually, this poem was inspired by a conflict I witnessed between two siblings, an older one and a younger one. And it was such a fierce, conflict. And as I observed and heard all the narrations and everything, it seemed to me that the older sibling had positioned herself as the lead, as a leader of the younger sibling's life. And the younger sibling had also accepted it until that moment where there was that wake-up call that no, this cannot continue. I must take back my life from this, other person. And it's a phenomenon which is very common in our Ghanaian society, where bigger people, older people are considered as the repository of knowledge, and they position themselves to lead, and guide, younger people or the rest of us. So that's where this poem is coming from. As I witnessed all the dynamics, I said, no. This resonates with me and resonates with other people. So I set my mind to work on this poem, to reflect various aspects of our lives where our agency is taken away from us by supposedly people who position themselves as, either God's spokesman or, whatever, that who take away our personal agency. Like they literally colonize our lives, and convince us it is good for us. So I say, to hell with you. I'm going to make my own mistakes and, live my life from there and learn from it.
Yes, to hell with you. I'm done with you. I think that it actually is, for me, it's like a break point. At this point, I'm going to do something else. I'm done with you. But of course, it's just about the poem. I'm not done with any of you, certainly not our audience. So now we take something from you, Ni, Ashaley.
Thank you very much.
It's working.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Ago.
Amen.
Ago.
Amen.
Ni meke na me mimbanya do manye.
Omanya blao.
Mindanya shin. So this poem is called Held High. Held High. And then it's a poem about poverty, and I write it in my own way, as all poets must do. It says, poverty is a state of being necessitated and realized in material by an equivalent state of thought. There is a certain world existing outside of the circle of our conscious awareness. Psychologists have referred to it as the subconscious. Philosophers who delight in distillation of simplicity out of chaos have opted for the mind. Theologians embrace the more flamboyant realm of the spirit, and the physical scientists cling on to the quantum universe. In and of by this world, there are no limitations, except for an unawareness of its existence and of its power, or a combination of both, and also except for a knowledge of its existence and of its power, but the utilizing end to which is detrimental to the growth of another being, whose growth and progress is tied to same. In this case, a conflict of interest arises, one which can only be nullified by the nullification of such workloads. This world that I'm talking about, it is the melting pot of all of our dreams, hopes, and aspirations, the drawing board of our physical reality, and the locomotive force powering the motions of our desires and of our ambitions. It sits in all of us, for it is the very source of life, the confluence where the universal mighty stream of living waters enjoins the purified soul. We are a conspiracy of phenomenal wealth and abundance. The Mayans have prophesied us eons ago. This world is in actual reality an omniverse, one that is eternally multiplying and expanding to accommodate the vast needs and unending demands of her progeny. Like the proverbial she-wolf, she simultaneously nourishes the development of her cubs and ferociously guards them from all intended harm. This omniverse is inherently benevolent and infinite in every thought of the word. And so I am deeply grateful and humbled, as I will be for my remaining days, that beyond serendipity, I have been granted access to share in this cosmic plenty through service. How peaceful it is, rooted in the knowing that our gentle souls form an integral part of an infinity, and that scarcity is but a mental flaw. Thank you.
Yes. When one thinks about the way that the world is structured in terms of resources, what one sees immediately is that there actually is plenty. Yeah. You know, if you take a walk out and you see that the earth is replete with sufficiency, it begins to make one wonder, whence poverty? You know, nature seems to give in abundance over and over again. You know, and when you began the poem and you said that it's about poverty, I was wondering what is in this poem. You know, but now you go all the way to the end, and I hear you talking about abundance at a cosmic level. You know, it's as if the cosmos is primed to give us according to our needs.
Yes.
And more.
Yes.
A word or two in addition to your poem?
Why not? I think that the reason for most of our miseries is simply because we are not connected to that self within us that is also connected to the universal abundance there is. So people are walking about not knowing who they truly are. They know what the system have told them they are, because they are thriving within this world created by the five senses. And that's the thing. That world is finite. It has an end, and it is coming soon. So when you are connected to that primordial source within you, where you can actually find God, you realize that there is nothing like scarcity in anything, because over there, you would have attained the wisdom to now begin to attract your good. You begin to attract circumstances that will put you to work to bring about your abundance. And so it is a question of knowing, seeking, and ardently doing so.
And then becoming.
And then becoming. Yes. But from the poem, I mean, if you do, you will get. It's the abundance is there. The scarcity is a mindset.
It's a mental flaw.
A mental flaw. You agree with me?
I do.
Yeah.
Today me most often I go on Facebook sometimes and like air out how I feel, how I think, and my thing with capitalism, I do not get why. Let's say you look at some of these companies, backed by science, they are confident enough to put out products over there that are not healthy for the human body, and then they advertise it heavily, and people get to buy these things, consume them, and then destroy their bodies. And we have to rely heavily on medication also. So you look at the entire thing and you begin to wonder, like, what's wrong with us? If we know this is not good for us, why do we have to get involved with it to the benefit of somebody else over there? And that's just like an individual. When you trace the company to the source, you realize that, okay, there's a person behind it, and this is capitalism, like, it's childish. So looking at this entire thing, and this is how we've been structured to operate, and it limits our being, what we are actually capable of, because like you are born, you are groomed into a society to become something else, and then you grow up, if you are fortunate, to question a lot of things, like with curiosity and following logic, sequences of logic. You realize that all of the things around is like a sort of bullshit. So you now begin to question, and like it becomes a kind of chaos inside you. And now you try to find how to harmonize, to stabilize, and then to create, to attract your own harmony, abundance, like you were saying. So I think the stage where the world is in right now, and lots of people are beginning to question themselves, society, and what they can do for themselves, actually. And we see a great awakening, maybe. So it will happen on individual levels, I think, and as a collective also. So let's get ready for it. We're not far from it. He says the end is coming. I don't think it's an end. It's a new beginning.
Yes, I actually didn't know I was going to be moderating such an ominous sounding session. Yes, but yeah, I prefer a great awakening, a transitioning, really. Yeah. A point at which we say, to hell with that, we are done with that. Let's get the new things on, and with the previous experience that we've had, we ought to be looking at new things which are more friendly to ourselves as people, Let's take another reading. Let's come to you, Elipklim.
It's a short piece.
Short piece. Once you pick up the phone, we know it's a new piece.
A very short one.
All right.
Madness can be passionately beautiful, an art form beyond the gallery of the human society if tended with care. It would become a translucent feat of magic, born of mastery and a sixth sense of possibilities. A madman is a red bolt of power rushing to the brain, but strong will and direction can contain the brim in the crucible of the scour for gold.
Short and sweet, but on a very, very interesting subject. Maybe you shouldn't have gone there, Elipklim, because people already accuse writers of not being quite correct. And now you write about madness in a really colorful fashion. You make it seem cool. Tell me about the poem.
I have friends going through challenges, creatives actually, and society has not made place for them. And I ask myself, how different am I from these guys? These are people I admire. And it's not just about them also. It's about the entire society, like what you are talking about now. As a creative, I identify with a particular energy, how my energy moves me. And this is like the inspiration for the poetry. And if you could look inside me, I think there's so much fire inside me. So if I allow all of that to burst out forth, and people can actually see this, they would say this guy is crazy. So I try as much as possible to keep calm. But inside me, this fire is burning wild, and I just try as much as possible to keep it like calm and tender and make it beautiful. It's creative fires. So I don't think madness is actually something that is really negative. Maybe people missed something, like just a bit of something that was missed, and as a result of that missed translation, they lost touch with themselves or with society, and they do not have support. And as a result of that, they found themselves in the other realm, like they are there alone. You know, all of us are mad people, because in our minds we think we have all kinds of things going on over there. And the fact that we've been able to culture ourselves a little bit to look good and acceptable, you know, that's the only difference. So for me, it's about the energy, how we work with it, how we create with it, how we manage it. It's about managing, it's about getting creative. And most of us are also mad because we are not creating. God gives us every day, and in the abundance that is given, if you do not use it at a point in time, you could get mad, because then things just keep piling and there's stagnancy. If you're not able to deal with being stagnant, then something else could go on inside you and you lose touch, and that's it. You can easily lose touch. And that's what I think people term madness. And so if you are able to control it, it doesn't go overboard. Controlling does not also mean controlling. It means you should expand with it, harmonize and expand with it, and ripple, like cause a ripple effect with love, harmony, and everything will be okay. The head is big enough to contain everything, like the skull. It's special. The brain is special also, and we have so much inside us we've not been able to tap into. Actually, scientists say we use a very small fraction of our brain power. So it makes room for us to be able to develop as human beings. So madness shouldn't be a thing we should be worried about and disturbing ourselves with. If we are actually able to access the other portions of our entire being, then possibly we would be getting into a new realm, new ways of seeing things, new ways of doing things. Maybe this current society as we have it would collapse and something else will be better, and we'll be better human beings.
Right. So thank you very much. Deep perspectives on the poem that you presented. It's a short poem, but it's touching on a subject that is, I think, inescapable in our society. As you mentioned, it is something that at every level the individual is grappling with things that may just be the one that sends you at the tipping point, you know. So yeah, thank you for that. We'll do another cycle of readings, and I'm sure I'll be surprised as well, you know. So Amarkine.
Thank you. My next poem, it's a poem I wrote in January this year, and it's entitled, "What If We Looked With Our Own Eyes?" Could we look back and trace our discourse on religion to all the minds others lent our eyes to use in seeing our own souls? Could all the lessons we had in all our classrooms explain our obsessions in all our chat rooms, and all the convictions behind our callings, and the kind of light we have had for our path? Could we be having and discussing the jihad, or finding out the transcendence of our souls upon the lotus flower, if all our classrooms had been filled with another faith other than what others inscribed in our books and on the nooks of our minds? Are we not the fruit of seeds others planted in the fertile soils of our little souls when to this expanse we landed? Could other lands be lying fallow, and awaiting our seeds to root and bring forth forbidden fruit other than the land on which others decreed our souls should be planted? What if we climbed the top of our soul's tree of life and found out with clearer vision that other fruit also exist afar that taste to the soul just as sweet? What if others thought our sevens were made of fives and twos, other than what we vouch to be our sixes and ones? Should we insist their sevens were different from ours and refuse to move forward toward our common 8, 9, and 10? And to what extent did the strength we got from numbers numb us from taking the road less traveled to knowing the heaven within our own selves? What shall it take us to know that what we have believed might just be what others had wanted us to believe? And what if we realize that we have believed, that what we have believed have blinded us from what we could have known? And when we chose, how free were our choices? How much of our own selves, compared to the kickback of what others had demanded of our soul, were our choices made of? What if we opened our mind's eyes and realized that all along we have been sleeping in other people's dreams just because we have been looking at our own souls with other people's eyes? And what if it dawned on us that what we have been told to search for had never been lost to our own soul? And that if we saw our souls with our own eyes, we might just realize that all along we have been the gods that previous generations had preached to. Thank you.
Twists and turns in this poem, lots and lots of twists and turns, and but once again, I'm beginning to get a kind of familiar thread in all your thinking. You know, it does seem that the poems we have heard all have elements of introspection, elements of being at the edge of some sort of newness. You know. All these questions that have appeared in your poem points to self-searching. You know, what if, and again, what if, and finally, what if we ourselves are the gods that previous people, prayed to? You know, lots and lots of questions. Are these personal questions that you have, or have you been collecting them?
Well, I question a lot of things, and I question everything, even the things I already know. Mm-hmm. And I engage a lot of people on social media platforms, and I realize that as a typical Ghanaian society frowns on people who question a lot. It encourages people to be believers. And the moment you are not a believer, the moment you don't swallow anything hook, line, and sinker, or the moment you do not conform, you are targeted. And this shows a lot on most social media platforms, especially when the topic of religion comes in, the topic of God comes in. People have very strong sentiments about that. So this particular poem was inspired by some of my experiences on social media platforms where people, like I asked questions and people gave me, hackneyed answers. I mean, answers that, others gave 2,000 years ago or whatever, the same answers. So it reflects the fact that people do not actually, people do not question things. And it comes back to what my friend was saying, that society, the social influence on people. Society gets its power when all of its members are believers. Mm-hmm. And so it feels threatened when people ask questions about the things they have believed. Mm-hmm. And so I just started posing the question that we have all been conditioned by one way or the other. All the books we read in our classrooms about God, about science, about culture, about are books that we did not have a hand in picking. The curriculum of our school system was chosen by other people who had in mind the kind of people they want to produce. And so they determined that every morning when we went to school, we'll do morning assembly and we'll recite our Father who art in heaven and all that. This is how society is constantly being engineered, this is how we will socialize.
Social engineering.
Exactly. So I asked the question, what if there were other versions of this? What if instead of saying Psalm 23 and the Lord's Prayer, we said some Hindu prayers or some other form of religion? What if we do that? We did that. We would have turned out to be totally different people. You understand? So it is this premise that makes me explore the various possibilities and probabilities of what we could have become. That the people we do not agree with also went through similar problems. Similar issues that made them who they are, and we find them different from. So we are all in the same gutter. Other people have produced who we are. So the challenge now is to take responsibility for producing ourselves, to take ourselves through processes where we question everything that others had dumped in us, and renovate our minds and throw out all the garbage and keep what is good. And then in the process of doing that, we might just as well realize that, oh my goodness, the God's people preached to 2,000 years ago are actually us. That what we have been conditioned to be looking for had been a part of us all our lives.
Interesting. Really, really interesting. For the last line, which has also popped up in your explanation or in this discussion about the gods, I think that's a really, really thought-provoking, thing to say. I will leave it at that to continue provoking us whilst we move on to Lee for another piece.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. So this one is, I am famous. I talk about fame in this poem, but in a way that you are about to perceive with me. I am of the unwavering resolve that fame is illusionary, that it is a state of mind that is assumed when one individual loses touch with one's consciousness. One will have to abandon one's knowledge of self and take up a socially constructed gown of praise in order to be famous. Once one begins to perceive of fame, one simultaneously initiates an exodus from the land of self. Let it be known, however, that an identification with oneself is the highest honor one can confer on oneself. For your deeds, whatever they may be, significant others may perceive fame in them. It is at this point, however, that the impenetrable boundary demarcating fame from self should be drawn. Knowing is qualitatively and quantitatively different from practice. One can know of a concept and not practice it. In this case, the said individual has not permitted one's knowledge to significantly interfere with one's already existing existential principles and potentials. In the situation whereby the said individual allows one's acquired knowledge to interfere with one's way of life, then there is either a contamination or a growth, depending on the spiritual worth of the knowledge acquired. In getting to know of how famous one has become, one is still who one is until the newly acquired knowledge of perceived fame is used by the individual in question to alter one's way of life. This brings to one's psyche a false sense of self-importance. The product of that false sense brings an ego boost along with it. Because all around one's space, one increases in awareness of the freedom many significant others willingly sacrifice for one's pleasure. Subsequently, illusionary feelings of superiority begin to creep in, a synthetic feeling turned by the hand of another synthetic social craze. Once one repeatedly identifies with these inorganic phenomena that have now presented themselves within one's immediate space with time, one loses that genuine flagrance masking one's existence. It is at this point that we surrender that consciousness is lost. Fame neither exists in isolation nor does it occur in a vacuum. Fame is necessitated a place in time, by its inseparable pairing with the individual whose deeds the idea of fame sprang from. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's quite clear if you observe that fame will definitely twist a person's perspective of self. I've read about people, quote unquote, superstars, and their lives were really, really turned upside down by the fame that they received. And one then asks, is it really a sort of social appreciation when a person is famous, becomes famous, or is it the path to destruction? Because you lose the sense of self totally, and probably you begin to define yourself in the way that the other people, and in this case, it's amorphous, the whole society, how they feel that you should behave, is what in the way that you then are forced to behave, just because you are famous. Do you think that there's any escape? Is it something that will always happen if you do something significant? Because society will always expect, and in that case you become famous, and in that case you are down the path of losing a sense of self.
Yes, most definitely, Martin. I mean, if you carry out a certain deed and then you get to the place where you attain widespread recognition, that oftentimes is inevitable given the soul-touching experience of the quality intrinsic to what it is that you are doing within the community. So that is an inevitable return for what you are putting in. But at the end of the day, you have to meter how that interferes with your own soul mission. Because an identity is everything. What is our identity? We are spirit beings relishing a human experience. That is our identity, and therefore nothing must touch that.
For sure, not even fame must touch that. And I don't know how well we are doing for time, because I don't have a timepiece with me. I'm going to have to rely on you.
If you rely on us, we will not finish.
No, should I say rely on your timepieces?
Because you have countless pieces to share if the audience would indulge. Should I go on?
Yes, but we are running till 8:30, and I want to find out how we are doing. We have 10 minutes. Okay. Well, let's try and squeeze in a final round of of poetry. I wait to be shocked and surprised to learn something new from this round. Elipklim.
Humans are like trees. At our very ripe old ages, our true selves, like chickens, come in to roost with us. Coops. In our early ages, we have the choice by nurturing to prep our roots to inch deeper into the earth we've been given. We determine if we'd easily be swayed by the dance of the wind, moving to its dictates like a wand of magic to bring forth the desires birthed by the convictions of the mind anchored in the hearts, or be rigid but not firm, losing balance to a crack in the stem, or sometimes viciously uprooted by the storm, making way for other life forms fill in and occupy our spaces. Like trees, having lived a life of fulfillment, standing tall without compromise, being the neck upon which life in the rainforest responds to the call of the sun in the morning, or the receiver of silvery moon dust sprinkling at night for nature's harmony of ritual spread via interdependence. Still trees branching out for support and shade, even then aware of the radius of influence, a confluence of harmony with other trees, climbing plants, combing the forest as parasites, squirrels, birds, snakes, taking turns for cohabitation. Then, after having reached its pinnacle of life defined by purpose not questioned nor doubted, grows gray after it's seen the power of the greens, browns, blacks, many layerings in rings resplendent for in rings resplendent of its inner life, and then honors the life in humor, deciding to fall, if not scarred by the axe. Even then, new life is birthed to replicate its splendor, a continuity in the sprout of a new head. Ne atikua atita de tuna. Ne atikua atita de tuna.
You decided to inject a surprise in the final part of the poem, right? Ne atikua atita dekula.
Etuna.
Etula.
Etu, like if a tree dies in its place, another tree sprouts.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. What is it? Cycles, right?
Yeah. Cycle of life.
Yes, but for human beings, we often miss out on this cyclical nature of things, even though we see it all the time. There's always rejuvenation. I mean, but for us, an end is an end, or are we not seeing it properly?
Maybe the end we think it is for human beings is an illusion. Probably because you've not had access to other faculties. Like I said, science says we access very limited part of our brain, the fraction. So the end, see all of the pieces we've been sharing, like there's great potential to us that we should be aspiring questions like things to know and all of that. We've not been doing any of these things. And when writers or artists or poets do these things, like they are seen as smart people, So there is so much to explore when it comes to the human being that we've not done, and it's childish of us. It's childish of us. So there is so much. It's up to us to discover. So we cannot say that in the case of the human being, we miss out on the experience when our systems in place do not make us experience ourselves for what we truly are, the potential we carry, and to make it manifest on that wholesome level. There is so much. When you look at history, back to the pyramids, there's so much we've not been able to decipher.
Yeah.
There's so much.
Yeah.
There's so much. So we cannot say that. And so if this is what was done thousands or tens of thousands ago, and we've not been able to decipher it, and we are living in this current reality, and this is what we've been able to create for ourselves, this very small experience, this very small experience, and we are comfortable, confident, arrogant, and talking all the shit we want to talk, It should make us feel like very little, like we are just a fraction of experience, like we are not really experiencing ourselves.
Oh. Yes. Amarkine, has he said it all, or is there something to add?
I have a lot to say about what he has just read, and I'll do that in another poem on a tree. I have a poem on a tree. So when he started reading, I said, oh, wow, there's some resonance here. So I'm going to look at another aspect of the tree's life.
Let's go.
Yeah. And I call it, I am a tree. I am a tree, all stately tall and freshly green, and this I knew before I grew. I live my life merrily and happily, never for once giving thought to the day when someone kind is going to show up like a tourist with a powerful camera, stand in awe before me, take pictures, delude themselves they are making me know for the first time how beautiful and how stately and how awesome a tree I am. A day like this, I never conceived to live and await a tourist's arrival, a tourist's approval of who and what I am. I am a tree. I span the heavens, I reach the depths, my leaves rustle happily in the wind without any hassle. They whisper in the winds, messages across the distance and receive same from other lands. Sun, moon, and stars, sand, water, and wind. And all the elements, all of these are part of me, and a part of them I know I am. We give each other the power to be, and we transform and are transformed. We never for once think big of our power For we know so well our lives we owe to one another. So I am gentle, I know my place, my roots are anchored in nature's love. I am a tree, all stately tall, all freshly green, and this I knew before I grew. Thank you.
Yes, I will have to hurry this along a little bit more, but I'm really glad about the resonances. The tree knew it before it grew. Yeah, probably trees know much more than they are letting up.
Can I inject something?
Yes, if it's a small injection.
Very small. According to our folklore, like there are stories of trees that visit, like they become human beings on certain days and visit markets and do things like they move about. So who is the human being actually? Like who are we? What is life? There's so much. Like I'm saying these from ever folklore, like experiences, things we've been told, stories we've been told. So in that case, there's so much like that comes to when you talk about the tree, and in ever looking at the human being or talking of the human being, you say ameti, 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 the human tree, like
I see.
tree.
And yes, of course, I hear from the audience. There's also in Akan, Nipadua, the human tree. Okay, so yes, thank you for that injection. Yeah. Me.
Thank you, Martin. So this one is to fall on love. A little spiting. Last night I walked downstairs into the foyer where the guard reported to have seen you. He said you appear to have been moistened by the light showers that have now washed away my memory. So I remember coming down with a fresh change of clothes for you. How could I have watched you catch a cold, my dear one? Warm is the pulse of your heartbeat, and to that there is no catch. You were not there. I knew that on my second step down because my olfactory senses recorded nothing of your sweet-scented scent. I longed for it. With eyes closed and lips slightly parted in silent prayers, I craved your presence. It's been a week already. My nights are riddled with lucid dreams. In one dream, you laid in a fold of my arm as we watched the sun rise in Babet's hammock. Do you remember? Surrounded by the charms of nature's flora and graciously rocking the groove of the morning's vibe. But it was only one of those dreams that locked into the flames of my torture. As for the guard, maybe he misses you too. For what else can account for reporting what has not been witnessed when you know your job depends upon it? The flowers in the curb refuse to bloom anymore. The palm fronds do not respond to the wind. And even Abu, the little mouse we have been chasing around the house, is on strike. It's not the same. It's just not the same.
Wow.
Let us more.
So we have come to the end of the reading. But I'm sure we will not leave here the same. And I really, really appreciate the poets we've had tonight. It's really very exciting. Different perspectives, many, many deep thoughts that we will take away, and a final stunning poem of lost love. Thank you, Ni Ashaley. Thank you, Amarkine. Amarkine. Sorry, Ni. Amarkine. Amartefio. Yes, thank you, and thank you, Elipklim, Akorli. It's been a great time.
Thank you for having us.
This is the final session for Peja, the second day of Peja 2021. We are back here tomorrow. And we are going to start tomorrow in a very fun way. We are going to have a Kinky brunch. It's sponsored by Dakpabli Associates, so it's now becoming a world-famous Kinky brunch. You can enjoy spicy Ghanaian pepper with nice hot Ga Kinky. It starts at 11 tomorrow. You are welcome. Have a good night.
Yeah, avocado.
Thank you.